Welcome back. Just a quick video today, something a little bit different. Today I'm doing a bit of work on a transporter. Got some issues with the tandem pump. It's a 2.5 PD, but this applies to any of the PD engines really. So I thought I'd show you what I'm looking at. This is the tandem pump here, goes on the end of the cylinder head. They're called a tandem pump because it's got a vacuum pump built in it to build up your servo pressure and any other vacuum operated units on the vehicle, and also it's a fuel pump. So you've got a lift pump in the tank, and then you've got another pump in here which fills the galleries, and then being PD, the injectors are also technically like a little fuel pump themselves. Reason I'm working on this today is commonly, well not commonly, but they can leak basically a bit of oil. You've got oil going in for the vacuum side of it, and you can get a bit of an oil leak down that side of the engine. I've had this on my own van, yeah, and a couple of others basically. So yeah, it's not just this beast that I work on. Some of you might know that I am a bit of a Volkswagen fan. Always had Volkswagens, love working on them, and especially a bit of a soft spot for transporters. Got one myself. Brilliant everyday vehicle. Yeah, so got a new gasket kit for it off of eBay, source of all amazing products. Not really, but anyway, you can't really get them anywhere else. All the motor factors just want to sell you a whole new pump. So yeah, in here we've got the sealing gasket to the head, the gasket that goes between the two pumps, new bolts and a couple of seals. So yeah, let's crack into it, see what we can find. Yeah, I'm not necessarily doing this as a full-on how-to video, but just thought some of you might find this interesting as an alternative to just buying a new pump. If you've just got a leak basically and it's working perfectly fine, you can, yeah, replace these gaskets. Cheap, I think these are 10, 15 quid. You know, cure yourself an oil leak. Yeah, instead of throwing this away. I think these are like £200–300, which is crazy really. First off, let's give it a good clean off. You don't want any of the outside dirt and gunk getting into it. So, a bit of brake cleaner, a bit of rag. So yeah, initially, ring of Torx bolts. That takes the cap off the fuel pump side of things. I recommend doing this somewhere where you've got a nice clear space so you don't lose anything. There's our first gasket. Try and keep everything in place as you take it apart as well. First gasket there, sealing the actual fuel pump itself. Inside there are a couple of springs. But yeah, let's take these other Torx bits off. And there's another gasket there, sort of an O-ring style gasket, keeping the oil, or meant to be keeping the oil in there. Don't know whether you'll be able to see this, but there's the old gasket. There's the new one. You can see how much flatter that is just from being compressed for years in the car. Yeah, I'm going to put the new one in. Some of you might not agree with what I'm going to do, but I'm going to put a small smear of RTV around there. I mean, the very smallest. You don't want it squishing into the vacuum pump because it's just going to cause all sorts of problems. Yes, it's a new gasket, but it's just like an extra insurance policy for myself to make sure it's going to seal. I've done this before, played these games. You put new gaskets in, only to find you've still got a bit of a leak. So yeah, it's just to help. Also, I cleaned up the sealing surface there with just a bit of red Scotch-Brite. You don't want anything too fierce because it's aluminium. You don't want to end up putting gouges into that casing. You can see the tips of the vacuum pump there. They still look absolutely fine. The tiniest of amounts there, just to help it seal. Also going to put a little bit of engine oil on these tips, just for that initial startup. You can't get it in the wrong place, it only bolts up one way around. I'm also going to put a little bit of Loctite on these. Don't have to. Also, to take note, these bolts are shorter than the ones that hold the fuel pump cover on, so you don't want to get them mixed up. Give it a little finish off by hand. Don't like just finishing stuff off with the gun. We're not going to go into the fuel pump side of things. It's quite a low mileage van, and we've not got issues with the fuel pump or fuel pressure. It's just an oil leak, which is mainly coming from the servo portion of it. So that's all we're going to deal with. But if you do go in there, these bolts are very tight and they can round off. Again, Torx bits. And then once you get in there, in the kit, you get these little springs. They've got a ball bearing on the end of them with following a cam, which produces your fuel pressure. Yeah, so when you take that off, be careful not to lose these springs or the ball bearings, because that'll write that off. Not what you want to happen. So yeah, cleaned it off, a bit of red Scotch-Brite again. Going to put the new gasket on, bolt it back together. Again, new bolts in the kit. More than that. Bit of Loctite, don't want them coming undone. And there we have it, all back together, new gaskets, ready to go back on the van. All we've got to do is clean this face up, use the new gasket for there, which is generally the main cause of the issue. Put him on the van. Probably should have mentioned at the beginning of the video how to even take this off. It's only 3 bolts, 2 there, which on this vehicle are a spline, and a 10mm down the bottom there. And then make sure you line the vacuum pump up with the drive in the end of the camshaft. Hopefully some of you have found this useful or informative or helpful from this little video. For anyone who's got a PD powered vehicle, it doesn't have to be a transporter like this one. Could be a Golf, could be an Audi, anything with a PD 1.9, 2.5. They run pretty much the same sort of pump, and it should be the same sort of thing really. But yeah, so if you've got a bit of an oil leak, it is fixable at home with fairly basic tools and relatively inexpensive compared to getting a new rebuilt pump. So yeah, hopefully if you liked it or found it helpful, give us a thumbs up, give us a subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next video.